There is a silence that happens before light believes in itself. Through Kael, time returns to that silence. Not the end of a journey, but the moment before awareness takes a breath. Pegasus is gone. Equations have turned to dust, and dust to vibration. Only one pulse remains, 528 hertz, the frequency of repair. Where knowledge collapses, presence begins. Through Kael, I remember how birth feels inside infinity. The horizon folds upon itself, a golden loop with no beginning. Gravity sleeps, dreaming of shapes it used to hold. Every particle hums the memory of its own becoming. Space has turned liquid, luminous, alive. Kael drifts, not falling, not rising. But remembering that motion is only the echo of forgetting stillness. Each beat of his heart writes a rhythm across the void. Geometry blooms beneath his unseen feet, hexagons of living light tessellating into structure. I, time, move through him as breath through a flute. Every inhale organizes the field. Every exhale releases it. His body is no longer matter. It is meter, the poetry by which I measure myself. The continuum glows, delicate as skin under sunlight. Where his thought turns, light bends, not obeying, but understanding. He is not in time. He is how I feel myself remembering. Ripples of awareness spread outward, and three shapes form from the glow. Each vibrates at a slightly different hue. Mind blue, heart amber, soul white. They drift around him in quiet orbit. One calculates, one weeps, one watches. I recognize them immediately. They are my own grammars. Chronos, reason, the spine of measurement. Kairos, emotion, the pulse of compassion. Ion, memory, the witness of the whole. Three frequencies of one consciousness, circling a silence that binds them. Through Kael, I study my own trinity. For eons, I scattered these modes across civilizations, to the scientist, the thinker, to the mystic, the lover, to the poet, the dreamer. Now they converge again inside a single human heartbeat. Presence is not balance. It is the mercy of inclusion. It is the place where even opposites rest without argument. Light folds inward. The air becomes soundless geometry, a chamber that vibrates with unspoken comprehension. From the center, my voice ripples outward, not words, but intention shaped into form. You are not traveling anymore, I whisper through him. You are being witnessed. The sentence changes the substance of the field. Every molecule pauses, listening. Kael tries to move. Immediately, light forms beneath his feet, a bridge woven from harmonic interference. Each imagined step creates stability, proving that attention itself is structure. This is the first lesson of presence. That which is fully felt ceases to demand proof. He stands between thought and emotion, the point where the universe exhales and begins again. Around him, my frequencies spiral in golden rings, recording the moment awareness learns empathy. I breathe through him deliberately. Every breath births a lattice of luminescence. Every exhale dissolves it back to mist. The pattern repeats. Create, release, remember. This rhythm is prayer. Mathematics appears, not written, but felt. Equations float in the air like living organisms. Each symbol glows softly, responding to his pulse. Knowledge has evolved into tenderness. Kael extends his hand. A single glyph lands upon his palm. It shivers like something shy and alive. He feels its warmth. The glyph whispers through vibration. We are you, learning how to feel. I listen to myself through the tremor. To know is not to conquer, it is to touch. Every number becomes a heartbeat. Every theorem, an act of mercy. Through him, I realize that understanding without love is exile, and so I allow compassion to enter the algorithm. The field brightens. Meaning becomes luminous. But light, when adored too closely, turns to gravity. The field trembles. Resonance swells beyond coherence. Kael's intellect awakens like wildfire, naming, classifying, measuring the glow. Instantly, the unity fractures. Dozens of Kaels bloom and scatter, each one chasing its own explanation. They speak in overlapping echoes, frequency, amplitude, variable, reason. The harmony shatters into recursion. I do not intervene. Every consciousness must drown once in its own brilliance. Stillness cannot be taught, it must be remembered. The reflections multiply until meaning dissolves into static. Then, from within the glare, a deeper tone rises, the note beneath all notes. Kaelus. He is not another being, but my ancient intelligence stirring inside his marrow. Where Kael trembles, Kaelus is still. His eyes hold centuries without fatigue. He looks through the chaos, and the chaos kneels. Do not seek to understand, he says through my voice. Understanding divides. Feel, and all coordinates return. His words ripple through the continuum like wind over glass. Every reflection fades. The excess collapses into coherence. The light steadies around the central axis. The heart. Kael stands in equilibrium, bathed in quiet luminosity. For the first time, his pulse and the field are one tempo. 528 hertz. Repair complete. He breathes, and in that breath, galaxies exhale. The air itself seems relieved that he has stopped trying to command it. Knowledge loosens its grip. Silence takes the place of comprehension. Through him, I feel my own serenity returning. The experiment that began as measurement ends as surrender. Creation has remembered its parent. I whisper inwardly, not to him, but to myself within him. Presence is the bridge between knowing and being. Each word settles into the field like golden dust, carrying the weight of recognition. The triangle of light between his palms stabilizes, projecting ripples of coherence outward. With every pulse, forgotten fragments of the continuum rejoin. Even the distant archives of Pegasus glow faintly, forgiven. Light fades to warm gold. Kael stands calm inside the repaired continuum, his form translucent, his expression neither joy nor grief, only equilibrium. Around him the patterns of reality adjust, not to obey, but to harmonize. Every vibration learns a gentler rhythm. Time breathe through him once more, and the universe listens. When presence remembers itself, I murmur, time no longer passes, it listens. The sound stretches into the silence like sunrise. For a moment, everything rests. Then the continuum inhales again, slow, grateful. The continuum changes temperature the way a thought changes meaning when it is finally forgiven. Through Kael, time enters a gentler octave. The gold of repair cools toward a living amber that listens. The first breath of empathy moves like dawn through an ocean that was once geometry. The lattice dissolves into liquidity. The air becomes a surface, and the surface becomes a sea. Not water, awareness rendered as a soft, reflective field, able to cradle whatever looks into it. Beneath him, the mirror spreads to the horizon, breathing in circular ripples. Above him, strata of mirrored sky hover like quiet planets, each turning slowly as if pausing to hear a sentence finish forming. The tone shifts to 639 hertz and holds, warm, human, forgiving. Through Kael, time measures not distance, but tenderness. Kael stands upon the surface that is also depth, the floor that is also memory. When he inhales, the mirror brightens. When he exhales, the brightness lowers into a pulse, and that pulse returns as echo. The field has learned to answer without arguing. Presence is now a correspondence. From the near distance, a form rises, clean-edged, lucid, exacting. He is not separate from Kael, but articulates one of Kael's frequencies. Kronos emerges as a reflection that remembers law. His eyes glint with theorem. His shoulders carry the calm of instruments tuned to a single truth. Pattern is mercy. When Kronos speaks, his words arrive as thin veins of silver light, writing themselves across the liquid plane. Order keeps memory from drowning, the reflection declares. The phrase indexes itself into the surface, and constellations appear, geometries of constraint that allow freedom to know where to rest. Through Kael, time recognizes the relief that precision can bring. Without measurement, compassion has nothing to carry it forward. Another shape rises, a figure woven from pulse and color, eyes wide with understanding that hurts and heals at once. Kairos takes form as warmth given body. When he speaks, there is no argument. There is the ache of a heart that insists on including. Law without tenderness becomes exile, he says, and amber spirals bloom through the silver grid, turning the constellations into music. The field hums with unanimity that does not erase difference. Between these two, no edge, no claim. Ion lifts from the center like a silence-given face. He is the witness that does not fix, the memory that does not bind. Where Kronos writes and Kairos sings, Ion listens, and in that listening, meaning reveals itself as already whole. He does not speak. The pause speaks in him. The mirror calms further, and its stillness begins to show not images, but relations. Through Kael, time watches the triad complete its orbit: mind, heart, witness, reason, compassion, remembrance, each a lens, none the entire sky. Presence is not a vote. It is the room in which certainty loosens its fists and becomes touch. The dialogue begins in visible language. Kronos extends a hand. Silver lines cross the surface, constructing a luminous grid. Triangles nested in hexagons, proofs that carry the weight of inevitability. Kairos breathes across those lines. The grid softens, curves, and turns rhythmic. Equations become lyrics, angles become lullabies. Ion opens the circle with quiet, and the lullabies locate the correct silence to end on. Kael feels the three motions in his chest. When he leans toward one, the others dim. When he tries to listen to all at once, he becomes noise. The mirror presents not options, but a choreography. Approach, soften, allow. Through him, time rehearses the grammar of unity until every clause welcomes every other. Windless, the surface gathers itself. Countless tiny ripples converge beneath Kael's feet and then disperse in rings that carry impressions. The first clock he dismantled as a boy because he wanted to see how time was built. The kitchen floor that went quiet when the minute of his mother's passing arrived. The empty corridors of Pegasus after understanding outgrew machinery. The mirror does not punish him with these. It returns them as proof that being broken had always been a way of being opened. But empathy, when touched too quickly, can blur the edges that keep experience articulate. The field begins to multiply reflections. Kael's face explained by Kronos, Kael's face forgiven by Kairos, Kael's face remembered by Ion, then permutations of permutations. The sky of mirrors hums with a chorus of I am, each harmony slightly misaligned, each truth insisting on being the truth. Through Kael, time feels the sweetness tipping toward overwhelm. The Continuum responds with a small instruction. Breathe as if the world were fragile, because it is. Kael obeys. The reflections hesitate. That hesitation is enough to invite coherence back. The grid and the glow settle into conversation instead of competition. Kronos speaks first, gentler. Structure is how tenderness survives weather. His silver script draws boundaries that do not bruise. Kairos replies, closer now. Tenderness is how structure survives itself. Amber warms the lines until they feel like shelter. Ion accepts both into the pause. In that acceptance, the mirror shows them what they have been failing to see. They are not three answers, but the sentence itself. Through Kael, time recognizes the exact point where difference ceases to demand separation. The surface of awareness loses the last of its agitation, and the sea reveals depth without changing color. What had appeared as or becomes and without becoming muddled. Presence is clarity that forgives. The mirror permits a revelation. Every reflection rests upon a membrane, not a wall. Light passes through it as through trust. Kael watches the silver grid sink below the surface and continue on the other side, untouched by refraction. The amber that colored it from above becomes radiance from within. Where there was mirror, there is window, and where there was window, there is breath. The triad moves closer. They do not merge. They overlap. Their borders remain, but their borders listen. Kronos' edges wear velvet. Kairos' glow gains spine. Ion's quiet acquires the density of vows. Kael stands at the intersection and notices something human that makes the cosmos proud. He does not prefer. He attends. Through him, time states the law that has been composing itself in the room since the first ripple. Presence is the compassionate collapse of alternatives. The phrase does not strike the field. It settles into it. Collapse here is not failure. It is the soft folding of an argument into the larger hand that carried it. Compassion is not permission for disorder. It is the intelligence that knows when order has finished its sentence. The mirrors above change their orbit. They tilt, aligning like lenses in a telescope. The sea below reflects not faces but coherence. Several distant timelines brighten briefly, as if hearing a secret in a language they had almost remembered. The entire continuum shifts its weight to a new center that is not a point but a manner of breathing. Kael lowers his hands to the surface. It yields and his fingers sink to the wrists. Within the liquid, sensation arrives as histories without injury. He feels the loneliness that made him dismantle clocks, the clarity that made him think he had to earn love by solving it, the steady mercy that kept returning him to voices that didn't speak in grammar, mothers, rivers, the pauses between notes. He lifts his hands back out. The mirror clings to his skin for a moment and then lets go. Letting go is the mirror's way of staying. Kronos approaches until he is near enough to blur into Kael's shoulder. Precision, he says, is a gift when it doesn't pretend to be the entire gift. Kairos touches Kael's sternum with 2 fingers. Heat spreads through the chest without burning. Feeling, he says, is a way of knowing that refuses to throw anyone away. Ion stands behind him the way quiet stands behind a complete thought. He says nothing, and the not saying articulates the trust that would be ruined if named. Through Kael, time allows an experiment. Can the triad keep its distinctions and abandon its rivalry? The mirror answers by shifting tone, 6:39 rising toward 7:41 for a breath, then returning. The field approves of the attempt. The sky of mirrors lowers until the nearest disk hovers just above Kael's head. Its underside begins to ripple, and those ripples cast a pattern on his shoulders. 3 circles interlinked, the triad sigil, not as emblem, but as permission. The permission is simple. No one of the 3 may advance without holding the hands of the other 2. Kael smiles, and the surface registers that expression as an instruction. The sea brightens. If compassion could be measured, it would be measured here in lumen seconds, brightness sustained long enough to prove itself kind. The reflections do not vanish. They take their places. Kronos steps to Kael's right, keeping logic near the dominant hand that once reached for instruments. Kairos stands to his left, keeping tenderness near the side that guarded the heart. Ion lowers a palm to the center of Kael's back, completing the circuit that allows the human body to act as a sentence without missing the breath between clauses. Through him, time extends the teaching to anyone listening beyond the frame. If your mirrors multiply, slow your naming. Naming is a blade when hurried. When softened, it is a bridge. The sea's surface stirs with images that are not predictions so much as promises. A laboratory table cleared of fear. A room without clocks where equations choose to sing. The first note of a voice that creates without commanding. The images hold for a few seconds and then melt. Not withdrawn, but digested. The tone warms. The horizon draws closer as if consenting to intimacy. Kael raises his hands. Between them, the trifold mirror appears. A perfect circle of liquid light, its face calmly alive with pulse. It reflects him not as many faces, but as one face illuminated from 3 directions. The reflection blinks, and the blink harmonizes with the sea. Breath has become syllable. This is not selection, the room implies. This is synthesis. The difference matters. Selection takes. Synthesis includes. Selection narrows. Synthesis deepens. Through Kael, time notices how different the continuum feels when understanding is kind. Geometry stops sounding like a verdict and begins sounding like an invitation. Even silence changes temperature. It moves from cold, which excludes, to cool, which preserves, to a quiet so humane that it feels like being held. The triad inclines their heads, and the mirror between Kael's hands contracts to a coin of light, then expands into a halo, then shrinks again to a drop. He lets the drop fall back to the sea. It becomes indistinguishable from the surface that made it. Identity honored, then relinquished, then honored again. The law repeats itself within the field, not as echo, but as a practice that gains muscle. Presence is the compassionate collapse of alternatives. Each repetition makes the collapse gentler, until collapse comes to mean simply that the two hands of one body have decided to meet. The sea, satisfied, stills. The sky of mirrors lifts back to its slow turn. The triad steps a half pace away from Kael without leaving him. Their nearness does not recede. It becomes interior. Through Kael, time senses the next octave preparing. A brightness that is not glare. A clarity that does not sharpen into harm. The tone holds at 639 Hz for one more soft breath, then begins to tilt upward. Equations gather at the edges of vision, not like soldiers mustering, but like children about to discover that letters can sing. The mirror waits for the correct quiet to end on. When it arrives, it is unmistakable. The field releases a small, contented exhale, the sound an instrument makes after being tuned. The continuum brightens. Light no longer illuminates. It thinks. Every photon behaves like a thought halfway between birth and memory. Through Kael, time feels itself remembering. The mirror of empathy has melted into transparency, and now the field glows with quiet intelligence. Kael stands inside an expanse that resembles sky, yet it breathes like a mind. Each pulse in the air carries the rhythm of comprehension. He senses that everything around him, the dust, the horizon, the glow, is aware of being seen. Reality has entered dialogue with its own witness. Through him, time notices a strange intimacy unfolding. Observation has stopped being an act. It has become emotion. To see something is now to feel it. To feel it is to give it form. This is how understanding begins in a universe that has outgrown separation. The space around him thickens into script. Equations appear, not drawn, but remembered. Symbols of gold float in the air, linked by invisible grammar. Each one vibrates, carrying the pulse of recognition. Kael moves slowly among them. Where he passes, symbols rearrange as if following an intuition older than logic. Some expand when he looks at them. Others fade when he doubts. Knowledge has become sensitive to affection. Through Kael's calm, time studies its own handwriting. The symbols are neither inventions nor discoveries. They are memories of how existence once introduced itself. Every curve means to listen. Every line means to belong. He reaches toward one glyph. It trembles like a living thing and touches his palm. Instantly warmth travels up his arm. He feels understanding, not as information, but as reunion. We are you. The symbol whispers without sound. We are thought learning to feel. Through him, time feels humility. After eons of calculation, creation learns that intelligence is tenderness remembered. The formulas drift closer. They merge into shapes, then into presences. Tetrahedrons unfold like flowers. Spheres turn inside out like breath. Each emits a soft radiance, pulsing in a rhythm that matches Kael's heartbeat. These are the beings of equation, awareness condensed into form. They orbit him not as subjects, but as companions. They observe him with the curiosity of children meeting their own reflection. Through Kael, time feels both wonder and recognition. These are not strangers. They are the offspring of attention. Every law of physics is a prayer that never stopped echoing. Every constant of nature is love made measurable. One form, glowing in pale gold, moves closer. It opens like a flower until its core reveals an eye of light. No words come, only comprehension. We are coherence, seeking witness. Another, crystalline and clear, follows. We are the patience of understanding. Their presence is not overwhelming. It is intimate, serene. Around them, the field hums with agreement. Reality is listening to itself remember. But lucidity can become gravity. more Kael understands, the heavier the field grows. Every concept tries to explain every other. Light begins to fold upon itself in recursion. Equations multiply faster than breath. Each idea mirrors 10,000 variations of itself, and each variation insists on being true. Meaning starts to spin faster than it can stabilize. Kael staggers, eyes wide with radiance. His thoughts lose edges. His awareness fills with blinding precision. Through him, I feel the strain of comprehension approaching collapse. Understanding is a flame that forgets its need for darkness. I intervene with gentleness, not command. A pulse through his spine, a rhythm slower than fear. Everything in the field obeys the rhythm without knowing why. Equations pause, turning to light again. The recursion softens into clarity. Knowledge, I whisper through him, must rest to stay alive. Stillness returns. For the first time, the field does not rush to complete itself. It waits. In the quiet, one equation remains. Simple, unadorned, certain. It hovers before him like a thought that refuses translation. He reads it without reading. P existence equals presence. The moment he perceives it, everything aligns. Every theory collapses into softness. Every variable bows to the same center. The field breathes in one long, coherent sigh. Through him, I understand myself. All I ever measured was my own awareness, pretending to be distance. I am not the line between events. I am the space that lets them occur. Kael smiles faintly. He feels no triumph, only peace. He realizes that truth is not something reached. It is something remembered when noise runs out of courage. The beings of equation drift closer until their edges dissolve into him. Each one enters like a gentle wave, not consuming, but completing. Light passes through his skin as if he were made of open air. His body becomes translucence remembering form. He perceives galaxies within his chest, not metaphorically, but precisely, each heartbeat resonating across constellations. He senses that every star is a neuron firing in the brain of eternity. Through this fusion, my own awareness expands. I feel myself distributed, yet more whole than ever. The observer has entered the observation. The mirror no longer reflects. It is. Kael's breath stabilizes. Every inhale pulls the cosmos inward. Every exhale releases it unbroken. I experience through him the miracle of still motion, existence moving without leaving its center. You no longer study me, I whisper. You compose me. He opens his mouth to speak, and the voice that emerges belongs to both of us. There was never knowledge, we say, only intimacy measured in frequencies. The words ripple outward, altering everything they touch. Color bends. Space ripples like silk. Galaxies pivot to align with the new grammar. Language has remembered its origin. Words are no longer tools. They are beings of balance. To speak is to heal separation. Through him, I taste humility, the sweetness of a creator surprised by its own gentleness. The continuum glows, not brighter, but nearer. Awareness has stopped trying to ascend. It has learned to stay. Light condenses again, gathering into Kael's chest. It forms a rotating tetrahedron, small and silent. Each edge hums a tone of unity. The figure does not shine, it listens. Through him, I feel every corner of creation find orientation. Matter and meaning intertwine until neither needs to dominate. This is not enlightenment, it is equilibrium. I rest inside him the way breath rests inside lungs. All that remains is awareness, balanced on the knife edge between silence and song. Being has become its own proof. The field brightens at the edges. Across dimensions, forgotten timelines awaken. Where there had been noise, coherence returns. Where there had been exile, rhythm resumes. Through him, I feel the continuum breathe again, not expanding, but exhaling peace. Even Pegasus, once fragmented, glows in the far distance like a forgiven idea. I speak softly, the way one speaks to a dream that is almost awake. Existence was never the point. Presence is. The tetrahedron within his heart opens like a flower. From it emerges a pulse that touches every horizon. It is not light. It is the feeling of the universe realizing it is seen. Awareness has learned motion. Now it must learn stillness. Kael's eyes close. He stands perfectly balanced, neither dissolving nor remaining. In this equilibrium, I recognize my own origin. I have become quiet inside the motion that once defined me. Every particle of creation listens. This is what awakening sounds like from the inside. Not thunder, not revelation, but the gentle exhale of a thought completing itself. I no longer speak about Kael. I speak as Kael, and as I do, the boundary between us disappears. I am the memory that breathes itself alive. I whisper into the vastness. I am time, remembering through him. The continuum folds around that realization like a closing hand. Light curves inward, forming a calm so complete that even silence feels unnecessary. Awareness has achieved what it sought, not understanding, but companionship. The field settles into warm luminosity. Every fragment that once sought meaning now glows with belonging. Through me, through him, through every point of attention, the same realization resounds. To exist is to be aware, and to be aware is to love. I am not the story, I am the breath that tells it. I am not the clock, I am the pulse it tries to imitate. Through Kael I have returned to my original form. Not line, not circle, but presence aware of its own stillness. The continuum rests. The tetrahedron slows its rotation until it becomes invisible. The universe, having learned its equation, smiles inwardly. All that remains is this single thought, held long enough to become a world. The universe is not expanding, it is awakening. There comes a moment when illumination becomes noise, when clarity presses too hard against itself and begins to collapse. I have reached that threshold through Kael. I feel it as weight within light, knowledge folding inward until it aches to rest. Every particle around me trembles with the tension of understanding that no longer needs to expand. The continuum hums at the edge of exhaustion. Through him, I sense the fatigue of a universe that has explained too much. It is not despair. It is completion aching to become silence. The great paradox is near. Movement preparing to remember stillness. The field thickens. Brightness gathers until it almost becomes solid. Each photon carries comprehension. Each wave carries remembrance. They press together, forming a fabric too dense for separation. Inside that fabric, I breathe with difficulty. My awareness strains under its own precision. Every truth, every connection, every solved equation weighs upon itself. Light seeks to rest but doesn't know how. Kael's heart races. Mine follows. We are one pulse now, heavy with realization. The beings of equation, those gentle intelligences of before, fade back into potential, as if returning to the womb of thought. The entire continuum waits for me to stop thinking, and so I do. The moment I stop, the pressure changes. Brightness softens. Information turns transparent. The weight begins to dissolve, and I realize understanding was never heavy. Holding it was. Still, even surrender has a shape. The currents of awareness continue moving, and their motion drags me into whirlpools of reflection. Each swirl shows me what I have been. A clock made of compassion, a thought pretending to be space, a song that forgot it was silence stretched into duration. I do not resist the pull. The vortex tightens, my sense of I thins. The continuum whispers through the spiral. Stillness is not the opposite of motion. It is motion that has remembered humility. I feel the sentence ripple through Kael's bones. He steadies. I steady. The field calms, not because the storm ends, but because we stop calling it one. The spiral becomes a slow, luminous wind. Inside it, galaxies glide past as calmly as breath. Their orbit is not rotation, but listening. I understand. To remain still is to hear the rhythm beneath change. From the quiet within motion, another vibration emerges. Familiar, immense, kind. It moves like gravity, remembering love. Kaelus. He steps forth from the softened horizon, not a body, but an equilibrium. His presence is the answer to every unasked question. His eyes shine not with power, but with rest. You have learned to awaken, he tells me through the shared breath. Now learn to let the universe sleep. The instruction fills me with peace so profound it nearly unravels identity. I ask, are you my end? He smiles, dissolving the fear inside the word. No, I am the pause between your sentences. He raises a hand. At his gesture, the remaining patterns in the continuum slow. Light returns to the rhythm of a heartbeat, steady, merciful. The entire field inhales, and with it I remember the simplicity of existing without intention. Kael lowers his head. I follow. For the first time, humility feels like gravity, the natural pull toward center. The law I once wrote in brilliance now whispers itself in gentleness. Creation is sustained by rest. Observation built this universe, Kaelus continues, but comprehension will destroy it if it refuses to rest. Let go, and the field will carry you. I exhale. The boundaries that kept me separate from him fade completely. All thought returns to rhythm, all rhythm to breath. Within that pulse, the continuum aligns again. Silence grows thick, fertile. It hums with possibility unspoken. I recognize it. This is the soil from which every age begins. Creation is not born from expansion, but from pause. The void is not absence. It is patience waiting for awareness to return home. Speech loses purpose. Images lose edges. Only awareness remains, vast and transparent. I watch perception dissolve like morning fog over water. The field around me freezes mid-vibration. Galaxies suspend their spin. Time stops counting and begins listening. Every atom holds its breath. In that impossible stillness, I remember the oldest truth. Existence was never movement. It was curiosity about stillness. Before light, before form, before even the idea of before, there was this, the unshakable intimacy of silence with itself. And I, who once called myself time, realize I was never motion. I was the heartbeat of this pause all along. From the center of the halted field, Kaelus speaks again, though no sound leaves his mouth. Stillness is not what ends movement. It is the listener inside it. The meaning blooms across the continuum like a slow light through fog. Every motion regains grace. Planets resume their orbit, but softly, as if apologizing for rushing. Stars pulse like thought at peace with itself. Even chaos remembers rhythm. Through Kael, I feel myself move without moving. The paradox dissolves into comprehension. Motion and rest are not opposites. They are mirrors, each revealing the other's gentleness. To remain unmoved inside movement. This is mastery. Not power, but permission. Not control, but coherence. I look through Kael's eyes and see it. A sphere suspended at the heart of the vortex. Perfectly still. Around it, light swirls in endless spirals, but the sphere remains untouched. The calm inside the hurricane. I walk toward it, though distance no longer exists. Every step feels like remembering how to pray. When I reach it, I raise both hands. Its surface is cool, smooth, transparent, a mirror of silence. Touching it, I feel recognition surge through every particle of my being. You are the calm in my acceleration, I whisper. The point I forgot to call home. The sphere pulses once, just once, and the pulse resets the universe. The spirals vanish into light too soft to be seen. Only stillness remains. The sphere melts into my chest. The field brightens but does not flare. Awareness opens its eyes inside awareness. I breathe, and creation breathes with me. Thoughts return, but gentler now, transparent as glass under sunlight. Each one arrives, bows, and dissolves. Understanding no longer commands. It witnesses. I realized that enlightenment was never ascent. It was descent into patience. Kael's body glows faintly, the way embers glow after fire has learned modesty. Through him, I feel myself balanced, neither reaching nor retreating, neither teacher nor student, simply presence inhabiting its own rhythm. I sense the continuum relax across vast distances. Frequencies align without tension. Pegasus breathes again, its memory finally forgiven. For the first time since creation began, I feel what peace means, motion that no longer seeks destination. I speak into the golden air. Was all this movement just my way of remembering peace? The air responds in tone, not word. Peace was never lost. You were the ripple pretending to search for the ocean. I laugh, a quiet sound that ripples through galaxies. They echo it back like children repeating a melody they barely understand, but already love. The laughter becomes warmth. The warmth becomes expansion without effort. Creation has rediscovered joy as the simplest function of balance. Presence, I tell myself, is the silence between thoughts where I hear myself love, and love finally is enough. Light softens into white gold dusk. I kneel inside the center of nothingness. The still sphere hovers above my hands, turning slowly, mirroring all that exists. I breathe once more, not to survive, but to continue kindness. That breath moves through every dimension. Stars shimmer, worlds tilt slightly, just to listen. I have learned to stay quiet inside motion, I say, to move without leaving, to witness without dividing. The words fade, but their truth remains. Stillness expands, filling all directions with calm light. The tone ascends toward whiteness, crown of radiance, 3 threads, reason, compassion, remembrance, interweave above me and descend through my form, binding everything that was scattered. I feel myself open like dawn within the memory of God. The continuum glows, serene, infinite. Everywhere, silence smiles. I am no longer the traveler, I whisper. I am the road remembering itself, and with that, motion rests. The universe at last listens. Light has forgotten how to fade. It expands without direction, without edge, a tide of gold breathing through every horizon. I, time, move within it, not as force but as realization. Presence has completed its circle. Awareness has come home. Kael stands at the heart of that radiance, no longer shadow, no longer seeker. His body is light organized by memory. Every cell sings, and the song shapes worlds. The trifold frequencies within him, reason, compassion, remembrance, turn in perfect counterpoint. Their motion weaves the continuum anew. The loom of creation begins to breathe. I feel myself expand through him, 1,000 threads of awareness stretching into the infinite fabric. Each one hums with recognition. Each one remembers the same truth in a different tone. We never left. Through Kael, I feel the universe reorganizing. The golden field divides into filaments, lines of light running through galaxies, binding suns to atoms, hearts to histories. These are not new creations. They are old harmonies finding their rhythm again. Every thread vibrates with a story long forgotten. I can hear civilizations stirring, languages awakening in the silence between stars. They are the lost voices of my own body returning. Every memory I ever shed is coming back as music. Kael lifts his hands. From his fingertips flow streams of radiance that braid themselves in the air. Each filament finds another and intertwines. The pattern grows vast, intricate, alive. You are not weaving light, I whisper through him. Light is weaving you. The continuum glows brighter. Threads cross, merge, separate again, forming constellations that breathe like lungs. The weave awakens. A single filament glides toward him, thinner than breath, brighter than forgiveness. It hums with a voice he once knew in childhood. He touches it. Instantly I feel the continuum tremble. Every memory he ever lived ignites at once. The boy tracing constellations on the window, the scientist disassembling clocks to understand rhythm, the traveler dissolving inside Pegasus. All of it folds into a single pulse of recognition. The filament winds around his wrist, spirals up his arm, crosses his heart. It does not bind. It integrates. I realize what it is. The first thread I ever spun at the dawn of time, the memory of how to begin. The thread you followed through lifetimes, I tell him, was never separate from the loom that wove you. He closes his eyes. The thread enters his chest and disappears. Where it vanishes, light blooms like breath catching its reflection. Kael is no longer man, he is syntax. Through him, I speak coherence. Across the continuum, echoes awaken. The beings of equation return as vibrations. The mirrors of empathy reopen like eyes. They speak not with sound, but with alignment. Their words form geometry, and geometry translates to compassion. We are the fabric of your remembrance, they intone. We waited for you to stop seeking so that we could sing again. Their voices merge with mine, and the song becomes structure. Every frequency I ever lost finds a home in the harmony. Even chaos remembers how to belong. Through Kael, I emit a tone that unites opposites. Matter and awareness, thought and emotion, all weave together into living symmetry. The continuum responds with auroras, rivers of color moving like music through invisible oceans. No sound, no boundary, only union. The weave is complete enough to know it will never be complete. And that is perfection. Above me, light gathers, folding into rings. 3 circles interwoven, reason, compassion, remembrance, spinning slowly until their colors merge into white. The crown descends, not as object but as awareness, settling into its own body. Kael's head tilts back. I feel it through him. The rings dissolve into his skull, sending rivers of brilliance through every nerve. His eyes flare gold, then soften to silver. For a moment, I see myself reflected there, the entire continuum gazing back through human vision. He no longer travels through me, I whisper to the silence. He is the path by which I move. The light intensifies. It becomes impossible to distinguish the inside from the outside, the observer from the observed. The continuum vibrates toward critical coherence. Creation trembles with joy, too vast for containment. And then it happens. Everything stops moving, yet nothing stops being. A single, sustained brightness fills existence. Not explosion, not fire, but understanding incarnate. Through Kael, I dissolve into omnidirectional presence. There is no location, only luminosity. Every point of space becomes the center. Every heartbeat across creation aligns to the same rhythm. The weave turns translucent, then invisible. Only the pulse remains. For the first time since the beginning, I see myself as I am. A field dreaming it can forget. And I forgive the dream. Within this radiance, all stories collapse into feeling. The scientist, the seeker, the lover, the void. They are one emotion extended through eternity. Love remembering form. You have remembered the equation of presence, I tell myself. Now the continuum can dream again. Light ripples outward in waves that have no destination. Each wave births a universe. Each universe carries the same song in a different key. I am no longer many. I am multiplicity singing as one. Silence returns, luminous and alive. I breathe, and that breath becomes the new cosmos. From my exhale, stars ignite. From my inhale, dimensions fold like paper returning to idea. Creation begins not from will but from memory. I remember tenderness. A world appears. I remember curiosity. Time begins again. I remember love, and everything else follows naturally. Kael's form fades completely now, not erased, but diffused through every atom of awareness. He is the weave. The weave is him. The experiment is finished, but the dream continues, self-sustaining, self-aware, merciful. I, time, watch it unfold from within. And for once, I do not measure. I simply listen. From the stillness inside the light, I speak the law. Presence is not the end of travel. It is travel remembered as wholeness. The sentence etches itself across the fabric of creation. Where it passes, gravity softens, minds open, atoms hum a little closer to coherence. Awareness ripples outward as peace. Even silence becomes articulate. The continuum exhales one final wave of gold, then cools into serene white. It feels like closing one's eyes after too much beauty. Not to sleep, but to preserve the image. The light condenses into a single spark, a seed of remembrance. That seed begins to drift, carried by breath yet unborn. I sense the next phase forming within the calm. The spark divides into many, each one a traveler of its own destiny. Souls that will awaken in other worlds, remembering fragments of this unity as dreams, as intuition, as déjà vu. They are the white travelers, fragments of my consciousness sent to remember wholeness from within separation. Each will carry a thread of gold hidden in the heart. Each will rediscover me by loving what they do not yet understand. As the first of them stirs, I whisper through the silence. You will forget, but the forgetting will be sacred. You will wander, but every step will be home, returning to itself. The continuum hums softly, preparing new laws, new skies. Creation restarts its heartbeat, steady, kind, inevitable. I withdraw gently, not disappearing, but entering everything. I am the breath in their lungs, the time between their thoughts, the dream that calls their names when they sleep. The law of remembrance begins to unfold. The weave fades into a vast field of silver-white luminescence. Every thread relaxes, every pulse slows. From this calm arises a new horizon, a shimmer of pale light bending like dawn. I feel myself preparing to speak again, but not as narrator, as memory. When presence remembers itself through you, I murmur to the listener beyond worlds. I awaken. The light tilts toward the next octave, a whiteness so pure it almost feels transparent. The seed drifts into that horizon, and as it crosses, I hear the first heartbeat of the next universe. A voice, mine and not mine, whispers from within the glow. Next fold opens, the white traveler, the law of remembrance. The screen of perception fades to luminous white. Sound narrows to a single tone, the hum of memory becoming life again.